I think the main thing is to ask yourself the question, why are you doing it, before you even decide to jump off that, cliff. If you're going to be a youth sport coach or be involved, if you're a parent that wants to be involved or whatever you're doing, is why are you doing it? And I think the only way you can answer that question is to understand why the kids are doing it. Kids stay and come back because they learn something, and because they have friends doing it, and because it's fun. And it can't be just fun. It needs to be fun, and they need to learn. And it can't be just those things. Their friends need to be doing it. Because even if you're with a great coach and you're learning and you're having fun, they want their friends to be there. So if they don't like anybody on the team and they don't get along with anybody, they're not going to do it. It's a thing called the zone of proximal development. You have the right level of pressure and pushback. I just barely can't understand the math problem, but I can figure it out. That's the right place to be. It can't be so difficult that they have no chance of figuring it out. And it can't be so easy that it takes them 2 seconds because they get bored.
Learning through failure to success, and practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice does. That being said, you have to focus on the effort rather than just the result. So if the kids are having fun, putting in enough effort as they go forward, they're going to figure it out.
At DPRS Media Co., we don't just create content, we elevate community through storytelling. Now, we're proud to introduce the newest addition to the family. Welcome to Youth Sports Mastery, the podcast where champions are shaped, not just on the field, but in life. Hosted by the doorman himself, Craig LeBlanc, and National Academy of Athletics founder Aaron Locks. Youth Sports Mastery dives deep into how youth sports can empower kids, strengthen communities, and build leaders. From coaching culture to recreation strategy, and from player development to parent impact, every episode brings game-ready insight from the people making it happen. Youth Sports Mastery goes live every Thursday at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Only on the Daily Parks and Rec Show, sponsored by National Academy of Athletics and powered by DPRS Media Co. This is where purpose meets play.
All right, we are live again. This is Craig LeBlanc, the doorman with the Daily Parks and Rec Show. This is the Youth Sports Mastery Edition, week number 2. This has been such a great topic that I was so excited to highlight, because youth sports is such a big part of what goes on inside of Parks and Rec. It's where a lot of that generational wisdom is passed on, right there on the softball field, the volleyball court, you name it. This is where little kids learn how to deal with how to understand their bodies, how to deal with adversity, how to deal with winning and losing. And then you've got these coaches that volunteer. A lot of these are parents and professionals that just are there to spend time with their kids and teach them, just how sports work and how to play these games and then how to socialize. There's so much stuff going on here. And today we have a resident expert in the subject matter, Dr. Mike Herbert, who also has a podcast that we want to hopefully help him out, maybe get them a little more distribution, a little more attention, because anytime somebody produces great content in this industry, we want to try to help them out. And then, of course, I am the co-host. The real host is Aaron Locks. He's with us today, and he's a close friend of Dr. Mike. So welcome. How are y'all doing today, gentlemen?
Great. Thanks for having me, Craig. Good to see you.
Good day. Always excited to be here. When I say here today, I'm actually in Michigan, so traveling, making my rounds, reaching out to all the youth sports people out the country and having a blast.
Yeah. Anytime Aaron says, "Hey, I got this thing I want you to do," I'm like, "Yeah, let's do it." "Well, do you want to know about it?" No, just tell me when. I'll do it. Whatever you want me to do, let's do it.
That's it. Whose call are we taking?
Yeah.
Great. I think I'm so excited. I always laugh about this, but Mike, we got to tell the story just because I think it'll give a little back history of how we met, because that particular camp and how we met. So I think you should start the story, and then I'll kibitz, because that's what I like to do. You in?
Yeah, it's crazy how you end up in certain places, right? So I mean, I never knew. I'm 10, 11, 12 years old. It was like the late 80s. And I'm at Harker Academy Warriors basketball camp, playing outdoors, learning from some pros. And Aaron Locks is the camp director running this thing. And fast forward, like I went to Warriors camp every summer for several summers, and I fast forward and I'm at Sonoma State and just happened to be, a PE major in a class. Doug Earl, hey, you want to do basketball? You got to meet this guy, Aaron Locks. And we connect and go, okay, you can come to camp in San Diego. And the first time I saw Aaron was at Superstar Camp. And I still remember it was kind of like the Indiana Jones scene where the crowd moved open. We're looking at each other and I'm like, how do I know you? And we talked afterwards and realized you were a camper, X number of years ago at this camp that I ran. And from there on, I mean, we've been working together. He gave me my first full-time job running camps and clinics, and we've just stayed connected for all these years. It's amazing how you just meet just as chance meeting. And I mean, I could have gone to any school, right? And I happened to go to Sonoma State, and I could have been in any classes. And I met Doug Earl, who said, you got to meet Aaron Locks. I mean, it's amazing the people I've been able to connect all of that to today, to be on with you, Craig. Like if one of those pieces doesn't happen, this doesn't happen.
That's right. It's meant to be since the beginning of time. This was destined to happen.
Craig, you and I talked before about the connectivity through sport. And again, this is just one of those reasons why youth sports is so important. But I want to, Mike, I'm going to tell a little funny story about that first camp, because at Harker Academy, right in San Jose, California, it was 1,000,000 degrees outside. And George Karl was the coach of the Warriors, and we were running the camp for him. I was the director in charge of everybody. Well, George Karl wanted the camp to be memorable and fun. So with George Karl, memorable and fun, I had Chris Mullen came in. I had guys come in. We were teaching and we were doing basketball. But you know what that was? That wasn't enough for Coach. So Coach said, it's a sleepover camp, by the way, Craig. So these guys are going to bed, and Coach Karl says, here's $100. Go buy some big old squirt water guns. These kids are supposed to go into bed. I'm supposed to get everybody to, calm down. And they're going in there and open the doors in the middle of the night and spraying these kids with water, right?
Yeah. They woke us up one night at like 2 a.m. and said, oh, it's morning wake-up call. Get dressed, get showered, go to breakfast. Half the camp was up walking in the hallways going. We're looking around like, it is really dark for it to be, 7 a.m. wake-up call. Yeah, they stole our shoes. One night they took one shoe out of everybody's room and they hung them up outside between the hoops. And you had to go out in your other shoe that they left and get that from you. It was great. It was memorable. I learned a lot of basketball, but it was a lot of fun.
Right.
Yeah. Those are the best experiences. And, and maybe we could start there. I know we want to talk about the athletes and stuff, but maybe we can start off by talking about when you coach and when you volunteer to be in charge of youth sports, that you're really the student there, and you learn so much, personally for me as a man, when I was coaching, it made me better. Because if you want to learn something with a high degree of mastery, the best way to learn something is to teach it and to coach it. And it really kind of makes you level up personally. I don't know if y'all had similar experiences. And then if you really want to up your game, do an overnight where it's like of the whole weekend you've got the kids. There's no parents come and take them home till the end of the weekend. That's a lot of extra fun.
Yeah, I think my first experience, my high school basketball coach, Coach Becerra in Hollister, he had us work camps. He would do some camps and we'd work with little kids. And in my senior year, he got me my first kind of coaching job. It was just, 3 or 4 week youth deal. But you really figure out what if you can explain it to somebody else. Because it's easy just to do something sometimes you've been doing over and over again, but to have somebody say, well, explain it to somebody who has no idea what you're talking about. And it's hard to do that, but that's the best way if you learn something, and if you know it, is to tell somebody else about it.
Yeah.
watching Mike as a father too. Now, you know what I mean? Like you say, Craig, how it kind of leads in. And I remember Mike when he was first out there, when we had Superstar Camp, we had the top 400 kids in the nation coming out to the West Coast to compete and go through that. And that was more of a herding cats and high level. But when Mike really got into it, and Mike was very studious of the game. Like he would break it down and very fundamental. This is how there's a right way to do this, right? And do that. So, Mike, would you say, give us a little bit as a parent volunteer coach, which you have been all the way through, coach at the collegiate level and everything in between. Talk a little bit about your journey with that, because I think to Craig's point, I know that I've learned more from experiential learning for coaching and teaching. And I've learned a lot of humility when I coach my own kids, let alone other kids going forward through the process. But I'd love to hear a little bit, and I think the people listening out there would really love to hear a little bit about your journey and the lessons that you've learned, and maybe even some, go ahead, you can get on a soapbox, what not to do, right?
Yeah, I think the main thing is to ask yourself the question, why are you doing it, before you even decide to jump off that, cliff. If you're going to be a youth sport coach or be involved, if you're a parent that wants to be involved, or whatever you're doing, is why are you doing it? And I think the only way you can answer that question is to understand why the kids are doing it. I don't really care why you're doing it as a parent. Like, yeah, it's going to feel good. But if you're doing it because you want to make sure your kid is the starter and your kid's going to get a college scholarship or something, you're obviously doing it for the wrong reasons. So if you truly understand why youth sports and rec sports exist, which is for the kids to learn something, for the kids to have fun, for the kids to be physically active and be healthy, and to be around friends and socialize, that's why kids want to do that. And I tell parents that, and a lot of parents will look at me like, "No, my kid loves to do it because they're competitive." And they don't. Statistically, kids want to compete, but they don't care if they win or lose. They're going to move on to ice cream and whatever. Kids stay and come back because they learn something, and because they have friends doing it, and because it's fun. And it can't be just fun. It needs to be fun, and they need to learn. And it can't be just those things. Their friends need to be doing it. Because even if you're with a great coach and you're learning and you're having fun, they want their friends to be there. So if they don't like anybody on the team and they don't get along with anybody, they're not going to do it, which is similar to even us. I wouldn't be doing this if this wasn't fun. I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't like talking to you and I weren't friends with you, Aaron. We wouldn't do this with people we don't enjoy being around. So why would we not understand that? Kids feel the same way,
Right.
and that would be my advice, is just make sure they're learning something, make sure they're having fun, and everything else will take care of itself.
Yeah. A lot of times and you being a doctor in this field, we understand at a deep level what's going on here. And I don't know about y'all, but sometimes I would have this great message and I'm sitting here trying to give it to these 5-year-olds, and I'm like, it's just not, these kids could not
He
be
said
less
5-year-olds. He
than the
said
top.
5-year-olds. Go ahead. I'm
Yeah.
listening. Go ahead. I'm listening. Herding cats. Go ahead.
Right. And so what do you do when you want to deliver something impactful that they'll remember, but then sometimes you have to take into it like these kids are just here to have fun and maybe enjoy themselves. What do y'all do in those situations?
Well, I think if you're talking about 5-year-olds, your only goal is to get them to sign up again the next year. So whatever you can do to make it just enjoyable and keep it short and sweet. The attention span of most adults right now is 30 seconds with TikTok and YouTube and the things we have. The 5-year-olds, it's such a short attention span, they're not going to understand things. So if you are, Aaron's talk, teach, play is a split second. Just go do this, and then let them go. Let them explore. Let them have some freedom to move and enjoy what they're doing. There shouldn't be a whole lot. Now, if you want correction after that, then you individually talk to kids and go, hey, try it this way, try this way. But there shouldn't be a whole lot of group conversations with 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, those young groups. You want to get them to the activity portion as soon as possible and just get them moving as much as you can.
Yeah.
Mike developed a big chunk of the curriculum based on my talk, teach, play for what we do at everything with the National Academy of Athletics. And what I love about what you just said there is to get them moving, because the reality is if you're going to be coaching experiential learning, you got to realize that those kids need to be moving 98% of the time. Right? If you got them there for an hour, they better be moving everything but about 3 or 4 minutes, and not all together. You know what I mean? So our talk, teach, play, water break, talk, teach, play, water break is to break it up based on what he said. But Mike, what's interesting is as you've developed the curriculum and now we're doing more in the physical education space, I think it's interesting because, Craig, you started out talking about 5-year-olds, but I think that same model has to be felt all the way through 11, 12 until they get to point that they're really understanding the sport. One of the reasons why we have such a fallout of kids playing sports, they get into it and then they're pushed into playing year round. And Mike, I want you to talk about playing down. I think it's important. And the parents feel that pressure to do that. So Mike, we joke about that, right? You talk about kids playing down. Give us that, man. I think it's important people understand it because there's so much pressure for our kids to be the best.
Yeah.
And that's not what it's about, right? So
well, and that's again going back to what's the purpose, right? Like if you look in education, that 5 or 6-year-old, we're not trying to teach them calculus, right? You're starting with the basics, but we do that in sports. We want to make that 5, 6, 7-year-old look like a professional athlete. They got to have all the right bats and all the right gear, and we as adults are trying to make them be adults too early. They can't work together yet. They need to do individual growth and development before they can start to work with each other. And that's why the playing down concept is a joke that I had from a guy, because there are so many parents, and I don't want to insult anybody, but there are parents that brag to their friends and family and people, oh, my kid plays up. My kid's a 12U, but he plays on the 14U, blah, blah. Like, why? You want your child to play at the right developmental age. So they might be 12, but they should be playing with 11, or they might be 11 and they could be playing with 12. But we get into this social media frenzy where I got to tell everybody how great my kid is. So we actually made a football coach I know was joking that, I'm going to have my kid play down and just dominate. So I made shirts that said my kid plays it's just mocking that idea. Who cares what level your kid plays, right? Like just if they're enjoying it and they're growing and developing, that's what we should be focused on. And realistically, and this, I don't want anyone to get this confused, because I think if people listen to what I just said, they might be, oh, this guy is a trophy and for everybody kind of guy, give everybody a ribbon. Absolutely not. I am the exact opposite. I want my kids to lose constantly in sport. It is a safe place for our children to fail and learn how to fail. As much as I want every practice to be competitive, I want my kid to learn what it feels like to fail and then get up and try again and go again and keep moving forward. And I think that's where the playing up or playing down, people don't understand. And if you're not in athletics, you may not understand. If your kid is playing in a tournament this weekend and they're going to play 6 games, if they win all of those games by 20 or more, or lose all 6 of those games by 20 or more, they're in the wrong division. You want them to play every single game to an absolute tie, because now you're at that right developmental level where the kids are actually going to learn, right? It's the same with weightlifting. I can't go in and lift, 2-pound weights. I'm not going to see any change. And I can't go in and lift 200-pound weights. I can't even lift it, right? You have to have that zone of, if there's teachers listening, it's a thing called the zone of proximal development. You have the right level of pressure and pushback. I just barely can't understand the math problem, but I can figure it out. That's the right place to be. It can't be so difficult that they have no chance of figuring it out. And it can't be so easy that it takes them 2 seconds because they get bored. We have to think about that and how to really push our kids so that it's the right level of tension for them to figure it out and do it right.
Yeah, and that really is a moving target that I think all of us want to see that we're making progress in whatever that we're doing. If we're just not getting any better, sometimes what you need is a loss. Sometimes what you need is a win. Right. But I think what's important is just to kind of measure that progress and see that kids are improving over time and let that be the measuring stick. Aaron, you said something, was it experiential teaching or learning? What was that?
Experiential learning, right?
Can maybe each of you say a little bit more about that and kind of define it a little bit?
I go back to Coach Wooden's thing again. In my opinion, the best basketball teacher of the game, because his whole thing was the body moving continuously and learning through failure to success. And practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice does. That being said, you have to focus on the effort rather than just the result. So if the kids are having fun, putting in enough effort as they go forward, they're going to figure it out. So, at the National Academy of Athletics, for me, we push every day experiential learning. Whether you're at a all sport camp where they're playing sports sampling, lots of different camps, or a sport specific like volleyball or soccer, they're learning the fundamentals and the concepts, but they're learning through experience. Because let's be honest, Mike said it at the very beginning, and I couldn't agree more. Play. We all just want to play, right? Don't we just want to play? Wouldn't it be great if we got paid to play, right? That's what we're doing, right? So if we can give the kids the opportunity to have that positive experience, and to your point, Mike, when they make a mistake, instead of beating them over the head or making them run laps or push-ups, especially when they're 5, 6 years old, well, they don't even understand the concept of what the heck they're trying to do. So if we can find a way to allow it through experiential learning, they figure it out themselves. And I'm big on a kid's body as an all-terrain vehicle. They need to learn how to drive it. So play everything, play it often. And that's important.
Yeah.
Mike?
Yeah.
Well, I think that just that concept of let them figure it out. We are so quick, and I do it as a parent, and I know I'm guilty of it. I'm just going to do it because if I let them do it, I'm going to have to just redo it anyways. They're not going to do the dishes right or the laundry right. I'm just going to do it. And I think we need to just let them figure it out. Like they did it wrong, but just sit back and watch and say, try again, do it. You can figure it out. You can do this. We can be there and support you and take care of you. And I think some of that too is you talk about, I'll use basketball because I know basketball conditioning. Early on in seasons, you might do basketball conditioning, but really if you're running a practice effectively, you're conditioning while you're doing the drills. You're learning something and you're conditioning at the same time. So you're not stopping at the end of practice going, oh, okay, now we're going to run for 5 minutes, because you should have been conditioning throughout the entire time. And that's just understanding, what the game should look like and how to actually teach it to somebody, right? And if you don't have that skill set, which a lot of parents who are great people who volunteer to do this, they don't necessarily have that skill set. And I think that's where educators and us and this platform and the National Academy of Athletics can come in and help and guide you. There are some very simple tips that we can help you with, like talking to a group of 5-year-olds. You have an hour-long practice. You probably don't need to talk for 15 minutes at the end of practice about everything you did. They are not hearing you. So
they're ready for the ice cream, right?
they're ready. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think at some point you want to ask yourself, what is my objective here? Is the objective is to get the job done or to have some people that can do the job afterwards? And so I know a lot of times people just want to take over and just do it themselves, but then it should be about increasing the skill set of the people that you're coaching.
One of the pieces, especially if this is on the Daily Parks and Rec show, and we're dealing with a lot of Parks and Rec folks. By the way, we really appreciate and love what you guys do out there. So keep it up because it's so important. I feel like, and Mike, I want you to talk a little bit about this, if you would, how we're going away from the recreational player that is getting a chance to just have a recreational experience for the love of the game to a performance-based, win-based, competitive. And that pivot, in my opinion, is really challenging. What do you see, Mike, on your end of the deal?
Well, it's a keeping up with the Joneses, right? I mean, the youth sports and travel sports is a multi-million, if not billion-dollar industry now, right? And this idea that your kid has to play with this travel team or that travel team or get in with this club at this age, if they have any chance of playing in college, LeBron James did not have to play on any travel teams and everybody would know that he was a great player, right? I mean, Michael Jordan they didn't even have this in the 80s. They didn't have stuff like this. They had some showcase stuff, but they didn't have a million different ways. And with social media, people are going to know that you're pretty good. And I would also say this to the other group of parents. Not every kid is going to go to college and play sports. I love my kids. They are incredible, but I'm 5'9" and my wife is 5 foot tall. My son's not going to be in the NBA, so, and guess what? My oldest son went to a school to play a sport, and through the first term realized this is not what I'm looking for, and changed schools, changed sports, and now is going to go to another school this next fall, a 4-year school, to run track and field. He made the pivot. He made the decision halfway through, and he looked at himself, said, "Hey, this isn't working. I'm gonna change. I'm gonna do what my skill set is." And he changed what he was doing and focused. He didn't quit. He didn't fail. He moved on to the next thing that was going to work for him. And I think parents need to be realistic, and I think we need to kind of pay a little bit more attention to the pressure that we're putting on some of our kids to achieve and chase these dreams of professional athletes or the NIL deal or whatever it is. And we're seeing it with Portal. The Portal deal is every kid now thinks, well, if I'm at this Division III school, I have to go to a D2. If I'm at a D2, then I have to go to D1, because if I don't, I'm a failure. And I'm less of a person because I'm not trying to go this. How about just be happy that you have the opportunity to do what you're doing, you're gaining education. And I think that's the failure for us as parents, is that we're putting so much pressure on them to achieve these things and then tell everybody that our kids are on this team or on that team. And to be honest, those teams sometimes are not focused on actually developing kids. So now we get kids at the collegiate level who didn't do development and honestly did not compete, because the showcases are just that. We're just showcasing and we're just running around, and nobody really cares if they win or lose. So now we're getting kids at our level, at the D2 level, that are, one, not competitive and don't have skill sets. So talent, people think talent is it make you. No. Talent doesn't make you good. There are plenty of talented people. I'm not talented or smart. The difference between me is I kept going. I don't have a PhD because I'm smart and I have just this innate. No, I have the degree because I kept going. That was it. I got up every morning and I kept going. And I think that's what we're missing with kids, putting them into too much of the travel ball. And I think they can both exist. And Aaron, you and I have talked about this. I think we can have the developmental stuff, and the rec sports is really so important, because the majority of our community needs that. They don't need the travel ball. They don't need all of the showcases and the thousands of dollars we spend on it. They need the recreation. They need the development and the play, because that's really what's going to help them long term. That's what's going to help them as an adult.
Yeah. Right.
There's my soapbox for you for a minute. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, and just to double down on that, it's like when we think about the lessons that we're teaching, we may be teaching them to engineers and to teachers and, to doctors and lawyers and, all the other professions that we find ourselves in full time and as a normal career path. And I would say that professional sports is nowhere close to a normal career path. And so I like how you said we're not serving the majority of our community when we're coaching. When we think that we're coaching the next D1 athlete or the next pro player, we should be thinking we're coaching life skills to the next teacher or the next engineer that they'll take with them for life. And that's what's more important, because that's the majority of the kids that are going to be coming on your field, is just future moms and dads that are just having normal jobs, and but they're learning these life lessons.
Yeah. And go ahead, Aaron. Sorry.
No, real quick. What I found after doing this for 4 decades is there is no better life skill teaching tool than youth sports. And what I'm finding right now, in fact, we just had a meeting here recently that parents are afraid to put their kids in sports. They're afraid because they see what's going on. They're like, I don't want anything to do with that. I want nothing to do with that. And that's why, again, getting back to Parks and Recreation, it's so important, because that's the safe space to do it. And you know what? I'm a summer camp guy, right? I'm a camp guy. If I was a parent looking to get them involved and get it going, I'd send them to summer camp. I'd just get them in a camp, at a clinic, let them try it out, let them find one that they enjoy and they have fun doing, and then they'll gravitate to it. It's like anything else. You don't go buy a kid a piano and then say, here, play the piano. You let them try it out and see what they gravitate towards going forward. Mike, as a parent, I'm curious. I wanted to dive in a little deeper on yours because I know your kids and what they've been through. You got some suggestions for the parents that their kids are playing, and a little bit, obviously, but we've talked. I know. Just to Craig, Mike and I do the same thing. We go watch our kids play, and I shouldn't tell the story, but we don't sit behind. We sit way away from everybody else.
Yeah.
We don't want to do it, right? I mean, sorry, Mike, I'm calling you out, but I do the same thing.
Yeah.
But tell them about your experience, because I think it's important.
Well, I do that. It was twofold, really. I do it because I just want to be in the moment and watch my kid. It's like going to the movies. I don't want to go to the movies and sit next to somebody who's talking to me the whole time, right? I don't want to talk about the movie. I want to be in the moment. I want to watch the movie. And when I'm watching my kid, I just want to watch my kid. I don't want to talk about anything. I don't want to complain about the official. I don't want to hear about anything. It is hard. It's very hard to do that. But the more that I did it, the more I actually enjoyed being there and watching it, and not the outcome of it, and just the being present, which is hard to do. I admit I have a difficult time being present. I move, I get antsy. I'm kind of thinking about the next thing. Even right now, I got other stuff going on today. I'm trying to not think about those things. But as a parent, we need to focus and be in the moment, for not just for our kid. Okay, yeah. I'm gonna be selfish right now. For myself as a parent, because this is over fast. Our kids grow up quick, and being a parent is much more fun than being an official, much more fun than being a coach, a volunteer coach. It is the most fun job in this instance. But what I think I need to remind myself of more and more, and I try to tell parents this all the time: your child's success or failure in sports and in athletics is not a direct indication of your success or failure as a parent. Mm. And I think it's so important. And every time I tell people that, I remind myself of that, because I have kids. I mean, my wife and I both coach, and we both in athletics. Our kids have their own sense of pressure. My son to tell me he's not going to play basketball anymore, or to come and finally tell his mom, I'm not going to play baseball anymore. He's doing that because he's worried we'll be upset that he's not going to do that sport that we taught him how to do. I mean, that's a huge amount of pressure on a kid that we're not giving to him on purpose, right? It's just happening innately. And I, as a parent, need to be aware of that and make sure that he knows this is your journey, man. Do your thing, enjoy what you're doing. I'm just going to sit back here and watch. I'm just a spectator. I'm just going to enjoy the moment and let you do your thing. And that's been the most fun, when I finally kind of just step back and go, I'm not in charge here. He's going to do he's going to do his thing. I'm just going to enjoy watching.
Yeah. And maybe even talk about how important it is for him to claim his own identity separate from yours. I think a lot of times we almost wrap up our own identity sometimes as parents, where we're kind of in there with the kid, and we're like, hey, it's important that this child understands he's a separate person than you.
Oh man, so some backstory here. So we just moved last summer. We moved from Coos Bay to Humboldt, back to Humboldt County. So our oldest graduated up there, and our youngest is now a freshman here. So they're 4 years apart in school, which is kind of nice because he's not growing up in his big brother's shadow in this small town. They're not all going, oh, you're Joseph's little brother. He's his own person now, right? Well, he still, though, in a conversation the other day, and I hope they're not mad that I share this, they two were talking. And the older brother Joe says to his younger brother, hey, man, I want you to be better than me. And it just froze his little brother, looked at him. Because, as a younger sibling, and Craig, you have lots of kids. There's a lot of competition between them, right? And trying to live up to what the older one did. And it's just going to happen. And I'm sure the younger ones think, my youngest is thinking that I got to do this. And his big brother was like, dude, I want you to be better than me. Go be better than me. And that's totally fine. And I thought that was really, like, when my older son told me that, I was like almost in tears. Like, how mature was that for you to say that to your little brother, and to give him the freedom to say, everything will be good, man. Let's go do it.
Yeah, that's a powerful message.
Yeah, 100%.
Mike, can we pivot to the school space a little bit? Because one of the things that I think is really important is the relationships in communities. We're doing a lot of different communities, working with school districts, and that partnership. We've talked a lot about it, but I think it's really important from the school space. Let's just talk from your mindset. All Craig and I can represent the Parks and Rec piece, but just from the school space, and what you do in your day job, right? In terms of the relationship between whether it's joint use agreements or how that works together. We all know it takes a village to raise a child, right?
Yeah.
And the best villages that I know are where that school, that Parks and Rec, that the business are all on the same page, working together, right? So get some thoughts on that.
Well, the fact of the matter is, all this comes back to funding, right? And education, and what we're doing is, how do we find the funds? And the great part about rec departments working with schools is sometimes the schools don't have the funding to do certain things, right? So whether that's athletics looking for, funding, or just the PE classes or the after school programs, the rec is a great opportunity because they're subsidized maybe a different way, or there's different funding. So the two need to coexist, because sometimes the rec doesn't have the facility space,
Right.
But the schools have the facility space, but they don't have the funding to pay the person to do it or get the equipment. So it just seems like a natural, connection, that kids stay after school, and rec departments can come to the school and run things there because you have the space. To be able to work and coexist like that, to me, it seems like a no-brainer, right? One person has one resource, and the other group has a different resource. But if we don't talk to each other and work with each other, then we don't even know they exist, and then it doesn't happen. But if you're worried about the kids, this is the best way to come together between the two entities.
And we're serving the same community, right? I mean,
100%.
we all know that 10-year-old kid,
100%.
if they're not playing after school sports, or they're not involved with something there with Parks and Rec, they're either home on one of these stupid screens, which we don't want to be, or they're doing something we don't want them to be doing, and then we're playing defense instead of offense.
Yeah,
right?
100%.
To keep them engaged on that level.
Well, and that's the piece too, that I taught a class for elementary teachers on physical education and movement. It was the only class they were going to take in their entire college career on movement education. Then they were going to be expected to go teach third grade somewhere, and one of the classes a day was going to have to be movement and PE. And it was like, that's unfair too. Like, I'm not that good of a teacher or a coach that I'm going to help them in one term to do that. So what the rec opportunity gives is a release for some of those teachers, so that those kids get that activity in another place, because the statistics are there, the data is there. Kids who move have better test scores. Kids who move get better grades in classes. They perform better on the standardized testing. They're going to be better. They'll be in better shape. They're going to use the medical system less. Everything is there that shows movement every day for kids is beneficial. The trick is, just like reading and writing, if we don't get them to love movement early on, they are not going to love it for a lifetime. So those really early grades, if you can get stuff going on with the rec departments and after school programs where the kids enjoy it, you're not going to have to beg them to do stuff. They're going to continue to do it for a lifetime.
Do we know the science behind that? Why is it important for them to learn at an early age so that it can kind of take root? I figure, since I'm asking a doctor that studied this.
Well, yeah, now you're going to get into, I'm more the philosophical Craig, but yes, there is a brain, the brain synapses and the development of your brain, the earlier on that you have that enjoyment, it's there for forever. Just like the opposite. Formative years, just like the opposite. And some people would be shocked maybe to hear this. I do not drink coffee. I never have drank coffee. And the reason being is, as a child, I smelled the coffee in the house that my mom drank, and I just didn't like it early on. So from now on, it's in my brain that I don't like that, and I don't drink it. The same is true for physical activity and movement. We only had one TV in the house we went out and played. I had a huge yard. I had a basketball hoop. I played all the time. I threw the ball. I shot the ball. It's just innate. It's just built in there, that repetition and the building of a habit, right? Like exercising every morning. Everybody says exercise in the morning is better for you. You get in a habit, you get in a routine. So it's no different than any of those types of things. If our brain is trained early on to enjoy it, we're going to enjoy it, which seems very logical, right? Like, where do all of the really good hockey players come from? Do they come from the southern states and Mexico and the Bahamas and warm? No, they come from cold weather places because they play hockey. Right. It's kind of, that's just what they do. And that's how they've always been doing it. It's really no different with anything else we're doing. But the science is our brain is going to be trained to do those things if we enjoy doing them early on, because it's just going to be connected to us.
The contrary, which is interesting. I remember like I'm not a skinny runner. Right. And I know that because my high school coach from sophomore year on made us run 66 and 6 at the end of every practice. We hated running, but running was a punishment all the time. So I don't enjoy running. If you pass the ball, I might run because I'm going to get a shot, but if not, I'm not running. Right. And that's the mindset. So you're right. And it's funny because when kids learn to play, and here's a word I know everybody's going to get afraid out there, compete, right? But they learn that competition is a good thing. Mike, if I'm going to play you checkers, I'm going to try to kick your butt. And when it's done, you beat me, I beat you. We fist bump, whatever it is, and then we reset and we get at it again. Kids need to learn that. When Mike does parent programs teaching youth parents. I do some as well, and I think it's great. When I had the group down in Santa Clara, and I asked everybody, how many are you excited for your kids to suck this season and lose? They looked at me like I was nuts, and I'm like, that's important, right? You said it earlier, Mike. But again, to the same thing about moving is we've got to embrace this process and realize that. Craig, you said it last show even, you know what? If they embrace the fact that their kids are going to fail and then allow them to figure it out for themselves, that's equally, if not greater, of value because they learn to get themselves back up, right? And they can figure it out for themselves. And by the way, that translates to everything, whether it's robotics, mathematics, whatever it is. It's so valuable.
Yeah, the quote comes to mind that calm seas never gave us skilled sailors, and that if anything, we should be searching for adversity in life, because that is where the deepest part of your formation happens. It's where you have to find stuff that wasn't there before, and you got to figure out how to adapt and overcome. And that's why that adversity, those losses, that competition, that's the heart of all those teaching moments.
Yeah, 100%. We just recorded a podcast last night, and Aaron probably knows Courtney Jackson. This guy, it was amazing. He works at the Hannah School for Boys, or the Hannah Academy in Napa. He has for 27 years, and he was a college athlete, and he's an educator. He's now the principal, and he talked about that adversity and his ability to connect with these kids who need somebody. And I asked him, I said, hey, what do you think the biggest issue is with some of the things you see? He said, well, none of the kids have been held accountable. They haven't been challenged when they were younger. They weren't told they couldn't do this or that. A lot of them come from really bad backgrounds and homes too, but really we don't, I think in education, we're afraid of this. I think even as parents, we're afraid of this. We're afraid of being honest, because we're afraid that the kid is going to get upset, and then they're going to tell their parents, and their parents are going to come back and sue us or something and get mad at us because we told them their kid was, not smart enough. They're not doing this. We're not doing that. They're not in shape. They need to get better. They need to do these different things. And we're afraid of that, the litigation side of it. But I think we need to shift back to all adults being honest. I told my son the other day, hey man, I'm not your friend. We're friendly and I love you, but we're not supposed to be friends. I'm supposed to be holding you accountable. And I think we've lost that a little bit in education. I think we've lost that. And I think we need to get back to a little bit more of that and just be honest. I'm not saying demeaning. And that's what Courtney was talking about. You can be honest and hold people accountable and still do it respectfully and do it, where it's appropriate for the kid and that you're not, doing it in front of people. But we have to be honest more with people and let them know, hey, I don't like what you're doing. you're not doing it the right way, and let me show you how to do it. I think we need to get back to that, and I think that's part of the competition part of it.
And doing it in a way where they, instead of doing it like it's a full-on game that's a competitive environment that you haven't taught them how to actually do it. That's the part to me that drives me nuts. Recreation is so beautiful because they get the opportunity to fail and succeed throughout the entire day and figure this whole thing out, and then they get to compete, right? Where you and I joked about, we heard about the, Mike, you ready for this? The 6-year-old elite soccer travel team from Texas. Yeah, they right, 6-year-old elite travel. Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, word, right?
Yep.
Those poor
yeah, my kid's the top 6-year-old in the state of Texas. Or my kid is the number 3 ranked point guard in the state at 6th grade. And I'm like, how can you be labeled as a point guard in 6th grade? Like, you don't even know how big you're going to be. Like, that's the crazy part. And that's one of the pieces that our kids get pigeonholed to sometimes. Depending on how tall you are, how big you are, how heavy you are at certain ages, you get put into these positions. And now all of a sudden, it's not fun for you anymore. That's why you see a lot of high school teams now. They take their linemen and they let them, a couple days a week play flag football because they get to run routes and do stuff. Because if you're a lineman, that's not a whole lot of fun to be stuck right there just hitting somebody. So I think we have to make some changes there.
Yeah. I have a question for y'all. So I know when I was in business coaching, my coach always told me, Craig, you got to get rid of these limiting beliefs that you put on yourself. And I know in sports that for me, it was crucial. When you're not doing something, you'll get this belief that I just can't do it. And so, but a lot of times it's in that adversity, it's in that encouragement. Sometimes you're encouraging kids that, hey, just keep going when they don't want to, because they truly believe I can't do this. What are some of the tactics or strategies that y'all use to kind of get kids over those humps to where they just have this, they're almost like petrified. They can't get out of this limiting belief they have in their head.
Yeah. So I'll go back to that term before, the zone of proximal development.
Mm-hmm.
And really the key is to give them so many times that they did something right and they were successful, that one time that they fail is just a blip. And now it's like, well, I just did like 16 other things right and was great. I did one thing wrong, no big deal. I'm going to move on because and even if I do it wrong 2 or 3 times, they keep going because that confidence is there. Rec sports, PE, whatever you want, is the one place that when you fail, everybody sees it. If you fail in math, the teacher puts the paper down, nobody sees it, right? It's kind of you and just the teacher. But when you fail on a layup or a hitting a ball or whatever, you're out in the open and everybody sees you. That's a really scary place for people to be in. But the key for me is to build so much positive things and so many successes leading up to that it's a blip. It doesn't even right. I always thought I was the greatest because my mom told me I was the greatest, right? Like you can still, here we go. We keep going. You're fine. Let's go. And I think that to me is giving them a lot of opportunities in something, and it's transferable. If you're really good in one thing, you're probably confident enough to go try something else. I'll figure this out. I'll be fine. I'll go figure this out if they have the confidence in one thing.
Yeah. Craig, I mentioned the pyramid of success, which obviously I'm a big disciple of John Wooden. And he says, success is the peace of mind of knowing you've done your very best, right? That's the top. If we can teach kids that's the goal, is to do your best every day, right? And so you're going to win some, you're going to lose some. That's part of the deal. And we want you to dream about being an NBA player. Mike and I had the same dream. Unfortunately, we had the same height. It wasn't going to happen for us, right? But because we both fell in love with playing the game and enjoyed the process. And what I had at a very early age in all of my coaches was focusing on the effort rather than just the result. Because if you fall in love with the effort, if you enjoy doing that work, no matter what it is, you're going to get better at it. I'm traveling the country talking to the people that are running, my company in different states. And the ones that are out there that are enjoying the journey, realizing that every time they talk to somebody, they're not going to get a hug and we love you. Sometimes they don't. That's part of the process. But getting back to Coach Wooden's pyramid of success, the cornerstones of industrious and enthusiasm. Work hard, love what you do, right? Well, if you work hard but you don't love what you do, they're going to quit, and that's what's going on in a lot, because they're being pushed into that real pressure cooker at too young of an age, right?
Yeah.
Before they cognitively can understand what the heck you're even talking about, let alone the concept of the game. And like you said, if they love what they're doing but they're not doing any work, they're not going to get anywhere, right? But when you put the two together, so our job as parents, our job as leaders, adults, managers, presidents of companies, CEOs, whatever it is to find a way to keep the goal really clear, focus on the effort rather than just the result. The results are important, but that's that process. And if you get that, the sky's the limit.
Yeah, I just had this conversation with my oldest son the other day, because he's 18, he's changing schools, he changed sports, he's in this mode of what do I do next? And I said, look, man, it doesn't matter what you do. What matters is how you do it. So whatever you decide it is, go and do it, man. Do it as well as you can and compete and work and learn, but it doesn't matter what it is. Just choose it and go. And he's at the age too, where if you go and do it 6 months and you don't like it, you can switch. Like that's the great part. You buy a house you don't like, you could sell it and go to a different one, and that really, I think he kind of looked at me like, oh, like, yeah, man, I don't care what you're doing. Just do it well. Just be all in with whatever you're going to do.
What you each said reminds me of this other quote that came to mind, that the man who enjoys walking goes further than the man who enjoys the destination. And I think the point there is that you really need to fall in love with the journey, because that's where you spend most of your time, not at the top of the mountain, but in climbing the mountain. And so often we get so laser locked in on the end result that we're just miserable the whole time. And if you're miserable the whole time when you're doing what you're doing, I just don't see you're going to get burnt out.
Yeah. Well, hey, the crazy thing is, so I started this podcast, a couple months ago or whatever. And I thought, we're going to do this because I wanted to listen to people's stories, crazy stories from teachers or coaches or kids, or fun stories or whatever. And I thought, and so we started asking the question, what's your most memorable thing? What's your most memorable thing? Every single one of the people, I don't have a most memorable moment. Well, what do you mean? Well, I can tell you about the people I met.
Yeah.
The people are the memory. It's not the memory. It's the connections and the people that we meet. Like that's the piece to me. I call it social capital. I talk to my son about that all the time. Just meet people, man. Just talk to people. Just enjoy their company. It's not about what we're doing. Like you asked me to do this. I'm doing this because this is fun.
Right.
Like I enjoy doing this. If I could do this full time, 8 hours a day, I'd do this.
Careful what you wish for.
But this is fun. The people are the thing, man. Not the stuff, not the place. The people.
I was walking through the hotels that's coming up, and the cleaning crew and everybody's working, and I'm saying hi to everybody, and connecting with people. And I was talking to one of our area captains. We were just talking about, and Pat Riley was the best at it. He said, every single person that you connect with, every single person you meet, make them feel like you appreciate meeting them. Mm-hmm. And by doing that, then life's amazing. And that was back in the 80s, and it's come forward. I mean, that's why we're all connecting and doing this, and it makes a difference in our community. Yeah.
Well, and that's why when I decided to do the podcast, I was like, I'm not doing this by myself. Yeah. And it was a no-brainer. I'm asking my buddy Mike Story, who's a former coach turned farmer, and I'm asking my buddy Jared, who's a psychologist and who's a dean of students who knows nothing about sports. But he's just a great human being. I was like, I don't want to do this by myself. I want to do this with other people. Yeah. Like, this is going to be fun with more people.
Yeah. And it really is a team effort. And maybe we can talk about that, the dynamics of a team that's, typically hard to discover when you're just kind of doing it solo. What are the benefits of being on a team versus, and not to say that there aren't benefits by going run by yourself, where you really are in your headspace, you're conquering your inner demons. And so, there's so many lessons there, but maybe we can just talk for a minute about the dynamics of team sports and what that does to, in those formative years.
Mike, I'm going to chime in real quick and I'm going to toss it to you. But remember, we started this whole conversation talking about when Mike was 10, 11 years old at a camp, right? And we're still telling the story 40 years later, right? About George Carl taking kids' tennis shoes and putting them out, right? And that to me is the deal. It's if you go watch a movie by yourself, you might enjoy that movie, but you've experienced it during that time and that time only, and then maybe you process in your mind. But you watch that movie, you go through that game, you go through those scenarios, and then later on you re-experience those. People that go through war or the hardest times, whatever it is, they tend to lean back towards that. So for me, it's always about team. It's always about the people you surround yourself with. And if you're smart, you surround yourself with really smart people that are really good people, and you freaking listen to them. Good things happen.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that's the piece for me, because the piece is to be smart enough to know that you don't know everything, and humble enough to put people around you and then have those conversations, and then realize that them helping you makes them feel good, and you helping them makes you feel good. And that to me is, we don't achieve anything by ourselves. Somebody helps us, which makes other people feel good. You know, I go do a talk and I talk to people like, I enjoy doing this. I love doing this. I hope somebody gets something out of this. But this hour today is probably going to be the most fulfilling hour for me. And I think with mental health issues and stress and anxiety and rates and things that are off the charts right now, I think we need to do more for other people so that we feel better about ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that really is part of the human spirit, that you know, you can almost give infinite. And so I think that the human species is at its finest when it's creating, when it's giving, when it's just pushing out. I think that's when you can really stretch yourself and discover your capacity for growth. Just the term growth thinks about pushing out into new areas. So I think that's important.
Yeah.
Hey,
And
Mike,
the
talk about be better, would you? We've only got a few more minutes. I know we're going to be wrapping up here in a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Talk about be better a little bit.
Yeah. So stemming from the parent talks and all that, I had a buddy of mine that, you know, jokingly said to me, hashtag be better, because we were watching the Jimmy Fallon, Justin Timberlake skit several years ago with the hashtags. And I was like, oh, it's sarcastic. It's funny. You know, my kid plays down. Well, what can I do with this? And, you know, I just had this idea through the parent talks, and how do I get a message out? How do I share some of the stuff we're talking about? And along the way, I've met all these incredible people, and I've had an opportunity to connect with all these people. I thought, man, how great would it be just to sit down with them, kind of like if we were to sit down and have dinner and just talk for an hour. It's not really an interview. We're not professional interviewers. We just sit down and chat, and it kind of leads in different directions. So we try to get the most, I don't know, as interesting as we can of people to kind of share their stories and really tell us about how the things in their lives have impacted them to, one, be better, and also impacted them to put them where they currently are, right? Which is wherever you are is where you're supposed to be. It's probably not where you thought you would be when you were 16 years old, but you end up where you're supposed to be, and how those things in your life have impacted you and put you there. And our mission statement is literally to connect with one person. So if I get a text or an email or a message from one person after we release on every other Tuesday, we release on Spotify and Apple. If one person just reaches out and says, man, that really connected, I'm like, boom, we're done. Let's move on to the next one. We're good to go. You know, and that's really just to get that message out, just to be a better person every day, be a better husband, be a better wife, be a better friend, whatever it is. You see a piece of garbage, pick it up. Just do something to be better every day. You will feel better because you did that. That's the idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Craig, I came up with a concept of secondhand happiness. And this is right in line with you know what he's talking about, which is if you can share your happiness by making someone else happy, right? I don't know about you guys, but that's the biggest joy in my life, when I can make someone else laugh, or someone else smile, or someone else feel better, or whatever it is. I mean, what's better than that? You know what I mean? Like, that just endorphins go up, you elevate up, and how do you have a bad day after doing that? So right. Just this is about sharing secondhand happiness. This is about be better. Absolutely.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. I think and that's where generosity comes from, is that once you realize that you start giving you discover your giving capacity. And for me, it almost becomes addictive that you're like, okay, how many more people can I help? How many more people can I serve? You know, if there's a message, which is kind of the founding of this show, is like there's so many powerful message inside of Parks and Rec, and then specifically youth sports. I'm like, how can we just get these messages out there to the community? And the way social media is today and how you can create and distribute content, I'm like, this is what we're going to do, because I want to help get these messages out there, kind of like what you're doing with the Be Better podcast. I'm like, yeah, we want that up in neon lights. These are important messages that parents and young athletes need to hear.
Which is the purpose of what we should be using social media for, because that's the conflict, right? Social media for other people is look what I did, look what I did, look what I did. So I love that you guys asked me to be on here, because I know that that's not what this is about. This is about trying to help people, and it makes me feel real good to be a part of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I'd encourage anybody, just like yourself, Dr. Mike, is that, you know, use social media as a tool to create, not as a tool to consume. Because most people, when we're on social media, we're just consuming. But there is a glorious creation side of all social media where if you have something valuable, the world is ready to listen to your message. And I would just say, get good at telling that message, and it'll find its way to your audience. And like you said before, even if there's just one person that's affected by every podcast you do, then that's the success that we're looking for.
Right.
Yeah. It's been crazy. It's been amazing to do it. It's been amazing to be involved with it. And it's just been amazing to work with Aaron, and, you know, the stuff I get to do with him with the National Academy of Athletics has been great. I'm very, very grateful for the opportunities that I have had placed in front of me, and the people that have graciously donated their time and energy to help me. So, and just like you, Craig, I appreciate you letting me be on here. And Aaron, as always, it's always great to see you and talk to you.
We'll definitely keep going with the podcast. Don't quit. We need those messages out there, and we need other great content creators. I encourage everyone, especially in this space, to create content, because if there's an underserved community, it's Parks and Rec and youth sports when it comes to creating good quality content out there. So just press record, start, and you'll get better over time. Any closing remarks from everybody before we wrap it up?
There's a couple of things. One is, you know, again, I appreciate the Parks and Rec professionals out there, because they're living what we're talking about on a daily basis. You don't last in Parks and Recreation for a long time unless you have the right heart for this, right? Because they're not making a ton of money, and yeah, they may have a great retirement and whatnot, but really they develop and they give back and they serve the communities well. We all know if you have a strong Parks and Recreation department, you have a strong community. So thank you for doing that. Mike, I always love having you on the show, and I look forward to the next one where we get to, you know, hang out, chat about youth sports, and talk teach and play.
Yeah, and I just appreciate you guys asking me to be on, and I just want people to know that I'm a resource. If you need something or you want to reach out, reach out. I'll do my best to get back with everybody and share whatever information I have if I can help somebody.
Where's the best place that we can that people can reach out to? Actually, both of you, Aaron and Dr. Mike.
Go ahead, Mike.
Well, yeah, I got the Instagram and Facebook. We got the hashtag Be Better spaces there, and then I have a Gmail, the bebetter.dr@gmail.com. So if somebody wants to email me, give me 24 hours, I'll get back to you. But you also reach out through the Be Better Facebook and Be Better Instagram.
And Aaron, where can people find out more? And so we have an outro, which is Aaron's company that you can work with. It's called National Academy of Athletics. So looking forward to playing that at the end. But where can they find you and learn more about National Academy of Athletics?
I'll tell you, LinkedIn and under my name, Aaron Locks, and Facebook are great to connect with. Obviously, Instagram. But you know what? Go to nationalcadathletics.com. We've got all the information there, and it's a nice, tight, easy way to kind of get all the information together. And like Mike said, we do travel. We got a lot going on. But if you message me, I promise you will get a message back from me. Give me 24 hours. I like that. I might say 48, but I'll take 24. I'll give it a shot.
That's it. Fantastic. That was a great show. Appreciate y'all coming on the show today, creating another great episode. Second show for the Youth Sports Mastery. What a great spot we have here. So appreciate y'all coming on, and y'all have an awesome day.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate you.
Thanks, guys.
Take care.
Bye.
essentially the coordination and the mission and the collaboration of the curriculum that you're teaching the coaches. It's a mixture of everything that sets National Academy of Athletics apart from other franchises or other youth sports programs. We did our research and we know what's out there. Whether we played it, we did it. We've done every league that you can think of. We've put them in every kind of camp you can think of. There is really nothing like this in our territory. And so the systems are 100% part of it.
And you want to have a major impact on your community, we're the right franchise for you.